everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going deep into how some people see God's actions in their lives, even when things get tough. It's like, we're going to look at a text that really doesn't hold back. It compares how some Christians view what God does to how Jesus was treated. And it's not pretty.
Yeah, not exactly light reading for a Sunday afternoon.
Right. They basically say some Christians treat God's actions even worse than those who doubted Jesus back then. Which is saying something.
It really is.
What do you make of that comparison?
Well, think about the most important, respected person you can imagine.
Yeah.
Someone you look up to completely. Now imagine someone treating that person like dirt. It's like that, but even more intense. Because for Christians, Jesus isn't just some guy. He's the Son of God, the Messiah. To disrespect him wasn't just rude. It was like the ultimate insult. This text makes us wonder, are we showing that same level of respect for God's actions today?
So it's more than just being thankful when things are good.
Way more.
It's about how we act when things go wrong. Because the author says some reactions are just plain unworthy, like when we complain about bad luck or question God's plan. You know, when we get sick or lose a job and go, why me? Is that what they're talking about?
Totally. The author sees that complaining as rejecting God's plan. Like, hey, that wasn't part of the deal. But what if those misfortunes, and I'm hesitant to even call them that, because the author are part of something much bigger, something God planned that we just can't grasp with our limited human brains.
So instead of random chaos, we should see them as God's doing, even the bad stuff.
That's the core argument here, that maybe, just maybe, there's a deeper reason to accept everything, good and bad, as God's will.
But doesn't that disregard free will? Don't we get a say in our lives?
The age-old debate. Free will versus predestination. We could spend a whole other deep dive on that alone. But here, this author's less focused on the how of free will and more on the power of accepting God's will.
So instead of why, we focus on accepting it as good, even if we don't get it.
You got it. It's less about knowing why things happen and more about trusting they happen for a reason. Maybe we don't see that reason right away. Maybe not in this lifetime even. Doesn't make it less real, less meaningful.
Okay, so it's like saying, look, I don't know everything, but I trust that God does.
Exactly. And the author thinks in that acceptance, when we let go of controlling everything, that's where real faith starts to grow. Trusting God's wisdom even when we don't have the answers ourselves.
But what about our human need to question, to make sense of things? Aren't we curious by nature?
We are. This isn't saying to ditch curiosity or wanting to learn. It's admitting that some things might just be beyond what we can grasp as humans right now.
So it's okay to say, I don't get it, but I have faith there's more to it.
Absolutely. Our senses, our logic, they have limits. Not a bad thing, just part of being human. This author's suggesting that maybe, just maybe, there's beauty, real wisdom in accepting that mystery.
This is getting less like theology and more like a leap of faith.
You could say that. It's taking that leap without knowing where you'll land, but trusting something bigger's gotcha.
Okay, I like that image. But before we go too far, what about when those misfortunes are more than just a bump in the road, like serious crises? How do we accept God's will when we're talking real suffering?
The million-dollar question, right? Where the theory meets the messy reality.
Exactly. It's easy to talk about accepting God's will, but how do we live it when things are really painful, heartbreaking?
Yeah, and the author isn't saying to ignore or downplay suffering. It's not about pretending everything's fine when it's not.
So we don't suppress our feelings, pretend we're not hurting.
Not at all. It's more like realizing that even in those awful moments, when we don't know what's next, we can still choose faith. Not a passive, bury your head in the sand kind of faith either.
But an active kind. One that helps us get through.
Exactly. Finding that strength to keep going, even if we don't understand why. Trusting that we're not alone, even without all the answers.
Like that saying, let go and let God.
Exactly. Letting go, surrendering to something bigger. That's where we might find peace, freedom we could never get on our own.
Beautiful, but if we shouldn't question God, if it's all about accepting without question, what happens then? Are we just passive, taking whatever happens, even if we could change it?
It's a tough balance, right? Accepting God's will doesn't mean giving up. It means knowing we have a part to play, but we're not in control of everything.
So aligning our actions with our faith, but accepting we're not all-powerful.
Right. Do what we believe is right, try to make things better, but trust the outcome to something larger than us.
Not just saying it's all up to God, but more like, I'll do my part, trusting God's working through me, through everything.
You got it. seeing our own actions inside this bigger God-given plan. We can be compassionate, loving, trying to make the world better, trusting those actions mean more than we immediately see.
Makes you think, huh? Even our small acts of kindness, trying to help, could be part of something much bigger.
Absolutely. We're not alone in this. Part of something bigger. And that, I think, can be really comforting, really inspiring.
This deep dive has really got me thinking. Love how these complex ideas make us see things in new ways.
It's a journey, always learning, always discovering. We may not always have answers, but wrestling with these questions, that's what deepens our faith, helps us understand ourselves, understand the world better.
So true. Before we wrap up, one last thought for our listeners. The author challenged us to see God's will in everything, even the bad stuff. So I ask you, how would seeing things that way change your everyday life? Could it help you understand your own life, your own faith in a deeper way?
That's something to think about.
It sure is. And with that, thank you all for joining this deep dive. Remember, these conversations are always better together. Until next time, keep asking, keep searching, and keep exploring this amazing, sometimes confusing world of faith. It's like we're supposed to just trust and fall back, hoping that, God's there to catch us.
And that can be really scary for people, even for people who think they're super religious.
Especially nowadays when we want logic, we want control.
Right, but what if having all the answers, that's not real faith? What if it's more about being brave enough to say, I don't get why this is happening, but I believe there's a reason, even if I can't see it right now.
So it's like we give up trying to be in control to actually be free.
Exactly. And the author seems to think that accepting that's what can bring us closer to something truer, a real connection with God. It's not about making God fit into our little human understanding. It's about us opening up to wonder, to accepting, to having faith, even when we don't know.
So then how do we even get that kind of faith? Especially when life's a mess, when those misfortunes feel huge. How do we actually live this way?
It's not simple, that's for sure. It's a journey, learning to see everything differently, realizing we've got limits, but God's wisdom is unlimited.
So where do we even start?
I think it's about changing how we see things. Instead of always, why is this happening to me? Maybe it's, what am I supposed to learn here? Or how can I grow from this?
Finding the good, even when things are bad.
Yeah. Realizing that even when it's tough, when we're hurting, lost, we're not really alone. God's there with us, giving strength, guiding us, even if we don't see it.
You said before, accepting God's will, it doesn't mean we do nothing, right? We still have a part to play.
Of course. It's not like free will goes out the window or that we have no responsibility. It's about our actions, matching our beliefs, trying to do what's right, and trusting that even small efforts matter in the big picture.
So finding that middle ground, acting, but also accepting.
Yes. We get to choose how we react to tough situations. We can be scared, fight it, or we can have faith, be brave, trusting there's a purpose, even if it's unclear right now.
That's a powerful message, really human. We all want our lives to mean something, to have a purpose.
Absolutely. And maybe, just maybe, that meaning isn't about controlling everything or having all the answers.
But trusting the journey, even when we can't see the destination.
Nicely put. When we embrace the unknown, let go and trust the mystery, that's when we might find a faith, a peace that's beyond anything we understand.
This has been amazing. These deep dives always leave me with more questions, but in a good way.
It reminds us that faith isn't about arriving somewhere. It's about the journey, always searching and discovering.
It's like trading in our perfect plans for a compass and a prayer.
And some good walking shoes. Because, yeah, it's a journey.
I like that, because we're not frozen in place, scared to move. We're on an adventure. Even if we stumble, take a wrong turn, we're still heading towards something bigger, right?
You got it. Every step, every struggle we get through, it makes our faith stronger, gets us closer to understanding ourselves, our place in it all.
It's powerful, isn't it, that even when things are uncertain, when we don't have the answers, we can still choose faith, not fear, trust instead of doubt.
And when we do that, we're open to things we couldn't imagine. We find strength to handle anything, with hope, even, I'd say, a little grace.
I love that. Grace, even when we don't know what's next.
It speaks to how much faith can change us. It's not about knowing everything. It's about trusting that even in the questions, the doubts, there's something wiser going on.
Maybe that's the point, huh? The journey matters just as much as where we end up.
Maybe even more. Because it's in that struggle, asking the big questions, that we really grow, really change.
And maybe by accepting we don't know it all, surrendering to the mystery, we realize the destination wasn't even the point. It was about who we become along the way.
That's a good thought to end on.
It is. This has been eye-opening, to say the least. We just dipped our toes into this text, but that's what's great about these deep dives, right? Makes you want to keep exploring, keep digging into these ideas.
For sure. Hopefully our listeners are feeling that too.
I think they are. So to everyone listening, thanks for coming on this journey with us. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep those questions coming, keep searching, and keep exploring this amazing and, yeah, sometimes confusing world of faith.